Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about hammer throw and the gear you need to get you started. This is the stuff that I typically use. A lot of people don't use the same things, but this is what works out for me in Florida. You're going to want to get yourself some blade boots. I wish I had started out with blade boots right at the beginning. A lot of people will tell you you don't need them until you have a couple years experience, but I wish I had started earlier. Likely you'll know somebody with blades. They can tell you where to buy them. You can either get straight blades or blades with a curve. I prefer with the curve, and you're going to want to get some quality boots. I used to make the mistake of buying cheap boots, and I would blow through a pair a year. Honestly, just go on to eBay and get some used boots. I got some Ariats for $60. They were gross and filled with dog hair, but you know, everything's cleanable. Nice thing about these is if you do blow the sole out, you can get them rebuilt for cheaper than a pair of cheap boots. The next thing you might want is a pair of gloves. Some people like gloves, some people don't. I prefer gloves because here in Florida it's not uncommon to throw in 100-degree heat. Your hands get sweaty, and for me, when I practice, it's at lunchtime, so I don't really have time to be dealing with cleaning my hands from tacky and getting back to work. But you aren't going to throw with just a pair of gloves. You're going to throw with tacky, and I like Super 77 for tacky. Pine tar works, but I find it's so strong that it'll typically tear the gloves apart. To make gloves last longer, you gotta do a little tape job, and I'll show you how to do that next. All right, so I got my glove taped up here. What I do is just a little loop around the thumb and around the wrist. Not really anything too fancy. And what this does is it keeps the glove from flying off and changing your timing of the release. Your hands being sticky, the hammer is going to want to pull the glove off, and if it does, even like an inch or two, it's going to screw up your timing, and this actually prolongs the life of the glove too. So I highly recommend taping your gloves if you decide to use gloves. One more note about the gloves. I like Franklin batting gloves. There's two types. There's Franklin Originals and Franklin Pros. I believe these are the Pros, and the leather material is a little thinner. I think it just gives a little more feel, but I find they are more expensive and don't last as long. So I recommend getting the Franklin Originals. That'll be my next pair. One other thing I highly recommend with gloves is having a fresh, clean, or clean-ish pair in your box at all time. Sometimes you have a crew of guys that are heavy with the tacky, and if your gloves are sticky to begin with and there's pine resin all over the hammer handle, your gloves will literally tear apart. It's happened to me more than once. So if you have a clean pair on that's not sticky, you'll end up having a much better time with a sticky handle. Next thing I want to talk about is the color of your hammer handle. I don't really see people painting their hammer handles too often. It's usually just the white that PVC pipe comes in. But this field in the summertime will be sometimes a foot long. And if I get distracted and don't see where my hammer lands, that will get lost in the grass, and I'll spend 10 minutes looking for it, and it's just a huge pain. So being bright pink, it's a lot easier to spot. The final part of my hammer kit is going to be a marking flag or a target. I like to grab all the old unused ones that are usually left behind by state workers marking gas lines and electric lines on the side of the road. They're plentiful. Just keep an eye out for them. These are great for marking your best throw of the day or putting a target out on the field. So when you mark out, say, like an 80% max throw, that'll give you something to throw towards. And as always, you know, have some type of trig. Scrap 4x4 works well, something you can pull a tape from.